Hey there everybody and welcome back. In today's video I'm going to be walking you through the basics of getting your application published to the Apple App Store. So we're using the Appgyver platform, one that I've used heavily in this channel, and I will be putting this video in the playlist on how to create a social or sharing app as well. But this is more of just a general guideline. I'm not going to be doing everything start to finish, but I'm going to try to help as much as I can. Now, one quick disclaimer for this video, I did want to let you know that I am not entirely sure if the process I will be covering is the best way to generate all of the information and get your app initially submitted, or at least to do as much as you can from a Windows device. So this video is for educational purposes only. I can't guarantee that the route that I'm going will work for you or if it's even the best practice. So make sure that you review the policies. So Apple has a developer.apple.com website. You can review the policies and make sure that you're doing it right. So just again, a quick disclaimer to let you know this is for educational purposes only. Make sure you follow their guidelines and do what is appropriate both for your application and for Apple's developer guidelines at the time you're submitting. So just follow their rules and regulations when you're going through the process. I'm not a huge fan of the process of uploading to the Apple App Store. It can be a little painful just because of how many steps are involved, and you cannot do the entire process from a Windows machine. You can technically use a virtual machine running the latest Mac OS, but unfortunately I believe that violates Apple's terms of use. So here's what we're going to do. In the description I'm going to have a bunch of information for you, the step-by-step instructions as well as all of the links. To do this, you're going to need to get your computer set up the way that I have mine set up just to make it easier. So if you're on a Windows machine, you'll need IIS or Internet Information Systems. So you can look up separately how to get that enabled and running. And then you're going to need Appgyver. In a new tab, you will need the provisioning profiles section of your developer account, the certificates section. You will need your App Store Connect account. You'll need to go ahead and sign up for your developer account for this. I believe at the time of filming this, it is $99 annually. You will need this document here for the provisioning portal, just the basics. It's very, very helpful. Then you will need this if you are on a Windows device. This is your basics on essentially creating an iOS certificate using Windows. This video here I reference, it's very useful. It is using the App Maker platform, so you can't follow this start to finish, but it's a great guideline, not something I created. So just trying to give credit to, I think it's appmaker.xyz. And then I have this, which is basically everything I just covered. So I would recommend having all of these side by side. So first things first, in your account, so on Appgyver, I'm just clicking on Launch, Distribute, Open Build Services, just so we can have this here, because this is how we're creating that IPA file. Then we are going to basically be setting up our provisioning profile next. So we are going to go to provisioning profile, and then you're going to select the option that's best for you. Now, one thing I do want to make sure that I note is when you're setting this up, make sure that you're choosing the options that are relevant for you. This video is a guideline for educational purposes, so make sure that you're setting this up in the way that works best for you. So not all the settings that I'm using, and this is a sample app, so not everything that's covered here is going to be the settings or options you choose. It's just going to help you get things started. So we're going to go to the provisioning profile. I'm choosing iOS app development for me personally. And then we're going to click on continue. So here you'll need to choose your app ID and your profile configuration. So I'll pause the video, choose this, and then get right back to this. And basically I'm just going to choose my app ID and click continue. So first thing is first, we're going to pause that. I do apologize. That is going to be an important step, but we need to create a key quickly first. So that is part of the first few steps. So we are going to make sure that we create our key really quickly in this certificates, identifiers, and profiles section. We're going to create a key. We'll just call this test, but you're actually going to name this. Choose any relevant options. And then you're going to go, so we'll have to choose, let's just click one of these to click enable. So you're going to choose whatever you need to, name your key accordingly, and we'll just click register. You'll see it cannot be re-downloaded. So we're going to download this key and store this in a safe location. Then we're going to get started in the next couple of steps in the process. All right, so now that we've clicked next, you'll see that we need a certificate. So we'll click create certificate to create a new one, and you need this to create a provisioning profile. So we will go to create a certificate, and you'll see that we have all of these options here. So we'll need to choose the one that's best for us. So you'll see iOS app development and a couple of other options. So I'm going to be choosing, let's see, iOS app for submission to App Store and ad hoc distribution. And I'll click continue, but choose what's best for you. Now you'll need to upload a certificate signing request. So this is where we are jumping into this here. So in IIS, we'll select the machine name, and then we will look for the server certificate icon and double click this. So in IIS here, I'm double clicking this. And then you will see that we will create a menu on the right hand side, and we're going to create certificate request. So we will create certificate request. Here, you're going to need to have your information. So we will put test, or we'll just put a@a.com. Organization, we'll put sample organization, because again, I'm going to be deleting all of this. Organizational unit. So you'll see, we'll just put development like this individual did here. City and locality, we'll just put sample. And then state and province, we'll put sample as well. And country, so this would be, for example, city and state, or if you're in another country, it would be whatever's relevant to the area that you're in. And then we will go to next. So you'll see here that they recommend RSA 2048. So we will choose that, and we will go to 2048, and we'll click next. Now it says select the type of request. So we've already done that. And now we need to specify the file name. So this is basically where we are putting this request. So we will click here, and you can basically just select an area. So I'm going to choose my download folder, and we'll just put cert request like he did in his. So we'll click open, and you'll see it decides, okay, we're putting this in your downloads folder. And then we will click finish. So you'll see next, just select a location. So we've saved that. And then we'll go to the Apple provisioning portal. So we have the certificate section, so where we were before. So we're in this provisioning profile now. So we'll choose the file, and we're basically going to our downloads folder. So we're going to go to downloads, cert request. And then you'll see in the instructions, we'll click continue and hit generate. Just letting you know that from that screen, it will just tell you to download that signing request. There's some information related to my account, so I just wanted to skip that. But basically, follow what I did. There'll be an option to download it, and you'll see it will now generate the certificate file. So at this point, you'll have your certificate file. You'll see I have ios_distribution.cert, or CER. So we now have the certificate, but this doesn't contain the private key. We need to complete the process. So we downloaded this, and now we're going to return to the certificate feature in the menu on the right-hand side. Now we'll see an option called Complete Certificate Request. So we will go to Complete Certificate Request, and then we will select the certificate that we've downloaded. So we'll choose this option here, go to Downloads, choose the iOS distribution certificate. You'll see friendly name. So we will call this sample request. And then you'll choose the option for this certificate and hit OK. And then you'll see here that we have this certificate, and now we can choose to export this certificate. So what we're going to do is make sure that we've done everything. You should now see that the certificate is an IIS. Please ignore the typo, and then we will export this certificate. So we're going to go here, and you'll see we have all of these options. So we're going to export this to downloads, and we're going to call this final.pfx. And we will click open. So the password, we're just going to put testing, and then testing. And obviously this is a password you would not want to tell people about, but I'm going to be deleting this app when I'm done. And we will click OK. Make sure you remember the password. That should go without saying. All right, so at this point we've created the certificate file on a Windows device. You can find resources on how to do this on a Mac separately. It's an easier process on a Mac, but basically we've done that on Windows, so this process could change over time. Feel free to continually look up. So if, for example, your certificate has an issue, check out this documentation here. But things could change for Apple's process over time. So just make sure that you're aware that you need that certificate to basically start the process, at least at the time of filming this video. So next up, we're going to add our application. So we will go to App Store Connect. I will cancel this real quick. So you'll see we're going to go to Add an App, New App. And we need a bundle ID because nothing's available. So if you click this link, it'll open up a new tab. And I noticed that when I've been clicking it in the past, there is an option on the right-hand side that I'm unable to type in. So if you hit back, it'll take you to this page. You'll see Register an App. We'll click this and click Continue. And we'll choose App and Continue. And then on this page, we now have options. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in a description. So we'll put Test App here and Bundle ID. You'll see they recommend a reverse domain string. So we're going to put com dot domain name then app name. So we'll put company dot Tyler Talks. Now this is a domain you're going to need to remember for Appgyver. So just bear that in mind. So we'll copy this and we will click continue. You need to check out if you need to select any capabilities, but we'll click continue. And then register. So we now have the bundle set up. So you may need to close out of this and refresh the page. So we'll click New App. iOS, we'll just name the app here. You'll choose your primary language, choose your bundle ID, and your SKU. So unique ID that is not visible to the App Store. This video has a recommendation on what you should use here. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to type in some random numbers, and then what we will do, I'm going to copy this down here just in case we need it. So I'm keeping this, and I will keep my SKU number as well. And then we will choose full access to give everyone access, but choose whatever's best for you. And you see that this is already being used, so we'll call it test, test, test. And you may need to find a better name than what I'm choosing. So let's see, Tyler, we'll call it Tyler Talks Test. And looks like that one went through. So now we have our page set up here. So you'll see that we have all this information. You may be wondering, what do we do with our final distribution certificate? So I'm going to walk through what we're going to be doing here. Now, this page, you need to fill out all this information just like you would in Google Play. So your app info, you have your name, subtitle, general info. So there's all of the info that you could possibly think of, pricing and availability. You'll need to upload your privacy policy. You can check your app review. So the idea here is you need to go through all of these tabs and fill out all of this relevant information, which shouldn't be too difficult. So you'll need to set up your content rights, age rating, etc. Now, once you've done this, you'll basically be able to save and go to next. So you'll just be able to walk through the various stages of this process. So you'll see that we have our bundle ID, the SKU, Apple ID, and then as you're scrolling through, you'll basically just be filling out all of this information. So for example, we can choose free and click save, or choose whatever is best for you. And you'll see that you have app review. So the idea here is you need to finish basically just filling out all of this information. So what category is it in? Choose a secondary category. You'll need to set up your content rights, age rating. Be very, very careful with these. I'm just going to select none because, again, it's a test app and I will actually be deleting it. But you need to fill out the information that's relevant to your specific application. And again, make sure that you're making this is something that's very, very sensitive. So make sure that you're choosing the right categories. You have your license agreement, etc. And as you click save, it'll save this content for you. So you'll see that we have our application here. So that's really all that there is to this process. Now we need to get the Apple build, or the Appgyver build set up. So we're going to go to configure, and then certificates and the password. This is the password that we typed in earlier. We will find our final certificate. We're using this one because, as noted in this article, this has the private key. We'll click save and next. Display name, we're going to call this Tyler Talks Test because that's what we called it in the Apple Store. And then you'll see bundle identifier. This should look familiar, so we are going to copy this over. Because if you do not do this and it's a different identifier, I believe it'll give you an error message when you're building it. And then you will need a provisioning profile next. So the provisioning profile, I believe you should have already downloaded at this point. So we actually have not downloaded that just yet. So we are going to jump into the other article that I listed in the description. Okay, so at this point, we are going to be creating our provisioning profile. So we're going to click plus, scroll down. Now, I did not note this earlier, but just to be safe, make sure that you're choosing the correct method when you're doing anything in your Apple account. So we're going to choose App Store. That's what I'm using for this. And you'll see that we have a continue button. And then we have the option to choose our app ID. I'll choose this and I will click continue. All right, so at this point, we are going to be selecting the certificate. It looks like there's a little bit of a delay when you're creating these and it's populating in the provisioning profile. Could be why I was having an issue earlier. So just a little bit of warning there. Now, I'm going to basically stop the video. It won't stop for you all, but you're going to select the certificate. Make sure you choose the right one. When you hit continue, you'll name your provisioning profile, and then you will simply download it. So I'm going to fast forward to that point. All right, so I'm zooming to cut out some of the information just so I don't have to edit the video. Once you're done with the provisioning profile, you can basically just click download and you'll see that it downloads that profile here. So we have what we need to continue moving forward. All right, so we went ahead and made that download, zoomed in just so I don't have to edit this video, but we're at that provisioning profile page. You can just click download. And now we have the provisioning profile that we can set up in Appgyver. And we have the bundle identifier and everything else. So we'll click save and next. Here you'll swap out the app icons, the notification and spotlight setting icons, and launch screens to match whatever image assets you have. You'll click save and next, and then you'll adjust anything here that you need to. We'll click save and next, and then we'll click on build. We'll choose the newest client runtime version. We'll put version 1.0.0. Then short version 1.0.0. You'll name these whatever makes the most sense for you. And you will select build. You'll see that it has been created. We had an error when creating this version here. Long story short, I didn't fill out any of the info in the Android tab. But we have that done. So you'll see that the primary purpose for the certificate for essentially what we were doing with the Apple App Store was creating that certificate. Then we got one that had the private keys for our application. So basically making sure, my understanding is that certificate acts similar to the key store file for Android. So you need to keep the certificate, the password, the provisioning profile, all that information, keep that separate for you, because I can go ahead and tell you that that is going to be something that you will need. Just be very careful with that. Just primarily because if anyone got that information, then there's a security risk for your application. So let's go through. So we have created our account. We created user and access. We clicked keys and we clicked plus. So let's go over here, make sure that we've done everything else. We are just going to review our steps and make sure we've done everything correctly. So we've set up our developer account. first you go to users and access, click keys, and click plus in active keys, enter the app name and select admin, copy the key ID and issuer ID and download the key and keep this secure. If I'm not mistaken, it's a one-time only download. So I would recommend some kind of cloud storage or something along those lines, but make sure it is secure. Go to My Apps and create a new app, bundle ID, and set all of that up, the SKU number, filled out the additional details, generated the bundle in Appgyver using the keys that we created. And then at this point, this is where I would basically just leave you all with using Xcode or Transporter to upload the app from an Apple computer. So basically, you're in App Store Connect. You see all of this information here. You'll see this app info, but there's not all this information down here that you need. So at this point, you basically can go to your App Store Connect homepage, and then when you do that, essentially you'll go to My Apps, and you'll see right here we have the test that we're waiting to upload, and this will have the more detailed information. So here you will provide your screenshots for all of these device sizes. If you drop in an incorrect screenshot size, it will tell you, so make sure you have some good screenshots, as these are basically how people are going to see your app before they download it. You'll fill out all of this information. So again, similar to Google Play. What's your URL? What's your marketing URL? Copyright information. The cool thing about this is if you were to click add for review, it will tell you what you've done incorrectly. So for example, if I click add for review, I haven't really filled out any information. So it'll tell you I haven't chosen a build, I haven't completed the contact info, and there's a lot of other things that I need to add. So you'll go through, fill out all this information, add keywords, support URL, and the build is the big part. This is where you need to get access to your IPA file from Appgyver. So we'll check and see if this has finished just yet. Still queued. So the idea here is you would fill out all of this essential information, and then you really just need to have the build. So if you click on See Upload Tools in this build section, you have these three methods to upload your application. Now, a couple of things to note here, because I don't have an Apple device or a Mac computer, so I can't actually use the Transporter app. But from what I've been told, and I think I read around in the Appgyver forums, if you have a Mac computer, you would need the Transporter app as well as Xcode installed on that device, just to avoid any issues. But basically, when you download the Transporter app, so if you were to click this, for example, you would see that in the screenshots right here, it's pretty simple. You log into Transporter, you add your package, you would deliver it to Apple, and it will upload it into your App Store, and you literally would just select your build from here. So you'll upload it in Transporter or in Xcode to your Apple developer account. Your build option will be available here, so you'll just select the build, and that's the actual application piece. So when Appgyver has loaded your IPA file, you'll see it's finally been delivered. If I click download, it has the app name, and you'll see it's an IPA file. And that's the only thing that's been downloaded. If Appgyver updates this at any time, I'm not going to really change this video at all. So the idea is whatever file is delivered, you need to figure out how to get that into your Apple developer account. So essentially, you just go and make sure that you have Transporter or Xcode. Use one of these methods here to upload your IPA file to your Apple account. So at this point, when you're in your Apple account, sorry, there's so many tabs, the IPA file will be in this build section. So once you have your IPA uploaded, the build is done. That's really the last hard part. And then again, you just need to make sure that all this information is filled out. So I'm not going to do that on this video. Apple has done a pretty good job right here of showing what you need to change. So upload your screenshots, fill out the required information. Don't forget to save frequently. Make sure that the proper build is uploaded for your account. I do know that there are some individuals online that you can pay to do this because this is probably the easiest step. The only tricky part about that is you have to give them access to your Apple account. So giving someone access to your Apple developer account is a bit of a concern for me for security reasons, especially since you're giving them your IPA file, all the content, your details, and letting them log in. Even if you're using two-factor authentication, you're still giving someone access to your account. So just worth noting, there are services out there for that, but use those at your own risk. Make sure you do your due diligence for that. I don't even know if that violates Apple's terms of use or not. So just Make sure that you're doing the research and doing things correctly. As you're going through the process, make sure you save. And then every time you click add for review, it's not going to let you add for review if you're missing content that you need. So basically, click add for review. It'll tell you what you need. Once you have filled out all of the information on this left-hand side here, like privacy policy, copyright info, all of that stuff, when you click add for review and everything that Apple needs is there, you'll see that it will say it's been added for review. Then at that point, all you really need to do is go to the App Store Connect and you click on My Apps, and you basically just wait for the review status for your application. So you'll see the one that I uploaded earlier. I'm going to upload one with the new icon, but it still says in review, and prepare for submission. So it'll go to in review. Once it's done, you'll get your determination and you'll see that there, and you'll be able to access it in the Apple App Store. But again, the tricky part and the only difficult part is just uploading it. But even in Apple screenshots, they've basically walked through how to get your file to Apple. So it's a relatively easy process. So I hope that was able to provide all of you some insight on how to get this uploaded. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below. Don't forget to check out my app in the Google Play and Apple App Store, and I'll see you all in the next video.